Just saying
So
hi,
good to
Antoinette.
see you. How are
I'm well.
you?
How are you?
Good, good. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that face in so long. Good to see
You
you.
too, you too. So I wanted to be supportive, and so I'm here.
Oh, thank you. So fun.
You're well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Doing well. I'll kind of share on here because the webinar is not going out, but I am pregnant, and so life is
Oh, that's
totally different
awesome.
than the last time we spoke. But it's great, and just enjoying this new adventure. So
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
thank you, thank you.
That's great. I saw Chris yesterday, and so I feel
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
nice to catch up.
That's great. I know I was like, I need to check in on the LinkedIn just with everyone's roles and all of that. Because I've gotten to partner with like IDC some and just know, they've just had so much change. And so I'm like, I need to just see like how is everyone and their industries and their work. So
Uh, I will tell you just straightforward. It's like there's a lot of pain there. A lot of them
yeah,
grant funding and are hemorrhaging resources.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it,
Really, really
yeah.
sad to see.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's been an interesting challenge for, I mean, well, unfortunately, a really
Yeah.
interesting challenge. So,
Well, I am excited to welcome everyone to our webinar, and then we also have opportunities to catch up with folks that maybe we haven't seen in a long time. So I'm glad we're able to connect with everybody. And so I'm Kelly Corey. I'm the director of the Master of Arts and Leadership program here at the University of Olivet. And I am joined by a colleague, a friend, and a long time ago, a student, Antoinetta Mosley. She is a courage curator, keynote speaker, and an author dedicated to helping individuals and organizations cultivate courage. We can never have enough courage. So the more we can build, the better. And when I saw on all the social channels that she just came out with a book called Courage Candy, I said, I want that. So I am super, super excited to have her share with you what in the world is courage candy and how can we get some? And so, Antoinetta, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and take off our screen of you with your microphone. It's just such a great picture with the green velvet.
Thank you.
Just joy and energy there and courage. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to welcome you to share with us what is courage candy and how do we get it. And don't worry, everyone, we will be recording this webinar, and I'll be sending a link out to all of you.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know some other people will probably jump in and join. But my goal for this talk is really for it to be interactive. And so the beautiful thing about having the courage to come onto a webinar is that you get to have that one-on-one interaction. And so my name's Antoinetta Mosley. I live on the coast of North Carolina. And I moved there about a year ago, which was probably one of the most courageous decisions my husband and I made. Really felt led to lead a slower life. And so I am originally from Atlanta, and we had lived in Durham for 5 years. And so leading a slower life is not always aligned with some of my strengths. And so, my number one on Strengths Finders is achiever. And so I hope one day like that won't be my number one, but right now it still is. And so some things about me, Strengths Finders, I have an achiever, belief, learner, and relator in my top five. And I just love helping people cultivate courage to reach their highest potential. And so I've had the opportunity to work with Fortune 500 corporate clients. I've had the opportunity to work with nonprofits. I've had the opportunity to work with teenagers. I've just had the opportunity to work with people of all ages on how do you cultivate courage. And something I really realized is most of us haven't had that opportunity. And so even some of the top leaders I coach are like, I have never actually learned how do I cultivate courage to be my best self, to be the best leader I can, to be the best change agent I can. And so it's really fun. Courage Candy It's a text community that I have. And really, honestly, one of my favorite things to do because I get to have so many interactions. So many people will write me back and we will dialogue about what's going on in the world or what's going on in their family or how is cultivating courage helping them, or even just like what quote inspired you the most today. So I want to make this interactive. You all came here today, so you basically get some kind of free corporate coaching basically of like, why are you here today? And so if you don't feel comfortable sharing out loud, that's okay. You can drop it in the chat. But would love to just start like, why did you come here today? It could be someone invited you and you're here, but would just love to know why you're here. And if you can just share one area where you would love to be more courageous, like where cultivating courage would help you right now. So whoever wants to kick us off in the chat or out loud.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm Joanne Williams. I teach communication, but that also means that I need to learn about it every single day because it changes just like everything else in life. And teaching another generation, a different type of communicator is a challenge for me. The real challenge for me, though, Miss Mosley, is changing my expectations about things and how
That's
I
good.
remember them to be, hoped they would be, and realize more that the world is for people to be who they are and accessible and diverse, and how that opens up communication so much better than putting people into silos and those kinds of things.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. That's beautiful because that's something that's a huge challenge for a lot of leaders in the workforce today or in universities is there's 5 generations in the workforce, which has never happened before. And how do we actually function as a team, function as a unit, respect each other, but still have ground rules and get work done when you have very different personalities? I'm a millennial. It's funny now as I get older and knocking on 40 to like, oh, feeling like the older people sometimes where you're like, what is wrong with this next generation? What's happening? And so I love that lens because we all do have to take that step back and be like, wait, this is how people thought of my generation too. And so how can we actually collaborate together? So thanks for sharing. Anyone else? What brought you here today, and what's an area in your life you could use some more courage?
I'll go. I'm Shannon Washington. I am relatively new to the University of Olivet. I started back in August, and I'm taking on some leadership roles in the Master of Education program online that's new. And I came today because I too am just a believer in lifelong learning, particularly as it relates to leadership, because we're constantly in an ever-changing landscape there. And I think that it's really important for me to keep defining and redefining what courage looks like, especially when we can be um, truly convinced that courage looks one way, but it actually might be the opposite of that. And it's really important to stay clear on what it means to be brave in our ever-changing landscape right now. So.
Thank you. I love that because like something we'll do is define courage today, which I realize a lot of people don't like. How does that work in leadership? How does that work in personality? So I love that. I started that, define and redefine. What does it look like? Because I think in different seasons, especially for leaders, it looks differently. Like sometimes courage is actually staying silent, and other times courage is being pretty loud. And so knowing when that is most appropriate for where you are, and just to advocate for others is so important. So thank you. Yeah. Anyone else want to share why you're here or an area you would love to increase courage in? Feel free. For those who just came in, feel free to share aloud or in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I can jump in. I'm Jeff. I've got a son, a sophomore at Olivet. I
Awesome.
also have Achiever as my number one.
Oh, Jeff.
Yep. So, and then developer, input, responsibility, and empathy. So I want to do all the things and help all the people and people pleaser. So I think I'm here to kind of recenter, maintain boundaries, right? And get away from that people pleasing. Yeah, and knowing when I need to be silent and when I need to be vocal. I'm probably better at that than I think I am, but it's just good to be in a space where we can talk about this.
I love that. Thank you. I love people who like know their strengths as well. It's always fun to pull up and compare. So yes, you definitely with that empathy up there too. I can see that you want to help people.
Yep. Mhm. So,
Thanks for being here.
thank you.
Okay, I can jump in too. My name is
Awesome.
Tamila Evans, and I'm at the elementary school, and I have fifth graders. So I am in the program to get my degree so that I can be teaching. I think my most difficulty with courage is that I have an autistic child at home. He's 15. So my world has only been autism. And now I'm in a general ed school. And my son didn't ask a lot of questions. I actually had to create the questions, and then respond to them, respond to him, have him respond back to me. And we have this communication building block where here with courage, they come with questions. And I do get stumped with it because I'm like, at home, my son doesn't ask me this. So it's definitely courage with that. And I noticed that the kiddos, they will go from one adult to another, especially when you're new on the scene, to see if you think alike, versus the teacher versus the one that's stepping in and see what's going on. So you got to kind of stay on the same plane, and agree with what the other teacher said, just to keep them on track, they will try to play against, just like they would do mom and dad, but I think that's the whole courage that I'm having now, just figuring out their world versus when I leave here at 3:30 and I have another world to go into. So that's my courage I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's beautiful because each person in whatever realm you were in, everyone here seems to want to be able to advocate well, but also like, how do I listen well? And so we're going to get into our courage definition because it is a balance. When I think of the definition of courage, of advocacy for yourself and others, but also, again, knowing what to do or even when to say, I don't know, and that being courageous as well, of like, it's okay, even with a fifth grader, to be like, that is a great question. I don't know. And I think sometimes with courage as leaders, we feel like we have to know every answer and we have to make decisions quickly all the time. And sometimes the best answer is, I don't know, versus just letting people think you know everything. And so I just really appreciate you all sharing why you're here. Just help me know, like, what are some things we want to hit on. Again, those who are here today in the room, you like get some coaching if you want it, right? So I'm joking, but also I want it to be really tailored to you all because it's courageous to actually show up in the room. It's much easier to watch back. Those who are watching back, I still love you. But they miss the opportunity to ask direct questions. So I will be monitoring the chat throughout. So please, any questions that come up as we're talking, I actually don't know. Can you all probably can't message because I can't message. So what we'll do, you can just use the raise hand feature if you have a question, and then I'll kind of pause at my next stop and answer your question. All right.
Can I dive in real quickly and just say hi?
Yes,
I'm
please
really
do.
sorry.
Please
So,
share.
I'm privileged to be part of the fan club that was formed around Antoinetta. I actually love to get her texts, which I read when I get them. And I took courage actually in the summer. I left my job. I ran a nonprofit, and decided to take a break from what it meant to actually run a nonprofit in these days. And my moment right now is trying to lean into launching a new practice, and whether or not I have the courage to actually do this or not, because of all that entails in making that happen. So it's nice to be in a room where people are actually wrestling with some similar questions. And I have to say, the answer of I don't know is incredibly powerful and highly encouraged that people use it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I'm excited for you because as soon as you said, I don't know if I'm going to do this, I'm like, oh, this sounds amazing. What is the practice? You're going to be great. So I'm excited for you and that stage you're in. And those are some of the things we're going to talk about. We have so many leaders on this call in different facets. And so I actually want to start out with the question. This isn't usually our starting question, but I just feel prompt to ask it. Use from 0 to 5. How many days do you actually eat lunch or pause to take a break around lunchtime? 0 meaning no days, 5 meaning every day. Just and Kelly, I'm not sure because I could only direct message you, but would love if we can turn on messaging to everybody for the chat. That would be great. Because I'm realizing I'm not going to see all their answers. So you all can just throw up your hand. How many days a week? 1, 5, 5, 5, 5. 3. All right. It's okay, Joanne. You don't have to feel bad. I will say most people are closer to Joanne. So most leaders I asked today are around 2. 0 to 2. And I'm like, if you are not pausing to eat lunch or take a walk, one of my coaching clients, love her dearly. She says she eats at her desk. If she eats at her desk. And so that is not a break. That is not a break. And so I just want us to think about, as we go into talking more about courage, what are the courageous decisions we need to make for ourselves? Because every person, some of the courage you want is for others in the world and to make it better. And so I want us first to look inward and go, if I want to do these big things, right? Teach fifth graders, we're teaching communication, new practice, all of these like beautiful, really important things for the world and the next generation. Am I my best self? So I love like Aiden taking this pause. Most of us don't have the courage to pause as leaders. I've seen that just tremendously over the last 3 years, whether it's pause for lunch, whether it's pause to reflect, whether it's pause to strategize. Most leaders I talk to, I say, okay, after a great big project, what do you do? And it's like, we go on to the next thing. And so I go, well, where was the celebration and where was the reflection? And so what I'm going to encourage us to do today, just because we all have different courageous things, but all of you all are leaders and working towards things that are really important, like teaching courage to others, defining and redefining what courage looks like, maintaining boundaries. So I'm going to just give you some reflective questions, and in our chat and in the book, I call them courage contemplation questions. And so I want us to think about that, especially for you. Anybody who was under the 4 to 5 days a week, what would it look like if I took a pause every single day for myself to refuel, whether it's a walk, whether it's silence, whether it's listening to a song. But I think if we don't have at least 30 minutes in the middle of the day to reset and recenter, whatever that looks like, we just become on autopilot to whatever the day wants to bring. Some crazy things to most people probably that I've done is I got this from the 4-hour work week, I believe, is often having an out of office that says I check email these 3 times a day. If you need me before my next time I'm checking email, call me. Pretty much no one's ever called me, which is really funny because I'm like, well, clearly people are going to call me. They're going to need me. And honestly, once you set certain boundaries, people actually respect them most of the time. And they don't actually need you like they think they need you. And so even today, I do some consulting with another firm as well. And I'm like, I have a speaking. I like to get ready. I like to be pause before speaking so I can bring my full self. So I'm like, and there were some big things going on. And I'm like, I won't be checking email until after the speaking, because that's where my focus needs to be. So does anyone have any other tips that you use personally for courage or setting boundaries while we're kind of focusing inward? And then I'm going to focus on the inward and outward with just our definition of courage. Feel free to come off mute. Yeah.
I schedule blocks.
So good.
You know, my last job was 50 to 60 hours per week. So I made sure to actually find ways to build in some time. So I would protect my calendar and intentionally protect my calendar. And then there's other things like, you know, the process of turning off the inbox is fabulous. I would extend it further, turn off notifications on your phone.
Yes.
Use the profile settings that you can in there, silence notifications, things along those lines. And then I would, you know, I extend it even further. I mean, those kind of notifications are designed in such a way that if I only wanted to hear from my family, I enabled that and killed the office notifications. And I also killed all the, you know, news notifications and sports notifications and things like, which are all serves as distractions. So
so good.
Managing your time.
So good. Yeah, I get no work notifications at all. So I have to consciously go in and check the email. And as an achiever, sometimes I realize, why am I going in and checking this many times? And so we have to kind of check ourselves of like, what dopamine hit am I getting from checking my email over and over and over, or having alerts on and on and on. And so we have to do that inward work of like, wait, what is this giving me? But also, like Aiden said, what is it distracting me from potentially that may be more aligned with what I want to do? Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
I'll just add to that. In my last job where I was somewhat in leadership with a lot of folks, I would offer folks a kind of like a draft out of office response for them to kind of give them permission to put an out of office response right before holiday breaks. And I think when their leaders come to them and say, I want you to turn on your out of office email Friday night before this long, you know, this next week that we have off, I think you could almost feel like a collective sigh, like in the district, when they're given that permission to, particularly because this was a school district where, you know, teachers are particularly right now on edge about keeping parents happy, and giving them permission to not respond to emails during their break. As their leader is one way that I try to also model what it means to take a break and what it means to kind of give yourself some time to repair.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And yeah, that modeling. So, like, I do a lot with nonprofits and a lot with EDs, and nonprofit EDs are notorious for working themselves to burnout. And so I'll let them know, okay, your team sees this, right? Like, your team sees this. So even if you're telling them take a break, but you're not taking a break, what is that pressure, especially right for those who are achievers? If the leader's not taking a break, we're probably not going to take a break either, because we're like, we need to keep the pace. And so I think, right, COVID also, a lot more people working from home and doing things from home has like increased the pace actually to a pace that I believe isn't really sustainable anymore. And so it really does take courageous leadership to go, I'm not going to work at the pace most of the world is, because actually when you look at all of the research, at a certain point, you're actually not more productive at all. And so, like, let's go to that research. So, like, we're actually not even more productive when we're just working like this. Yeah, Jeff.
Well, I'm a yoga teacher, which is probably a good thing considering, achiever and everything. So I'm constantly telling my students over the years, pauses on the mat between movements and poses, and try to introduce those off your mat. And I'm finally feeling like with a realignment of my professional life in the past year, I'm more attuned to that in my personal life. And then taking like, hey, Mondays are my Sabbath day, and Saturday, if I don't have a youth ministry event. But what I'm remembering here is I don't let many other people outside of my fellow staff know that Monday's my day off. So if someone, outside of staff at church were to email me, they wouldn't know that. So probably good idea, just, or even in, an email signature space, to have Mondays are my Sabbath time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's so good, right? Like that would be such a beautiful boundary for you. And again, I found like most people so respect that. Once they know you have this boundary, even professionally in busy professions. So that's beautiful. Awesome. All right. Well, what I did. Oh yeah, go ahead. Please.
Okay. So I don't have a problem with emails, because with me being contracted with the school district, I only have a section of what I do for them. So I do the small groups. The small groups are the general ed students who are not academically low level enough to have an IEP, but they do have a hard time transitioning into the classroom and staying in there. They have the behaviors where they constantly have to use the bathroom, trying to escape the task. They have the issue where they don't even want to enter into the classroom because they know they're low level. So of the embarrassments. Now that's that social emotional, so I have those kiddos. I teach them 101 in a group of 5 and 6, and I do that through the whole school district. I think I don't feel like I have to have boundaries with the students because they know when Miss Evans needs a moment. I have a problem with the teachers. So what I try to do to get close to the teachers, to kind of get to know them, but not be too in their business. Because some teachers don't just like you in their classroom. They feel you're there to watch what they're doing and you're going back to report. So for me to get to know them, because I am here the whole school district, so we have to be able to know each other on some level. I go in there when I'm free and I say, well, do you need to use the restroom? Or do you need to go and get something to snack on, or whatever? And I will hold their class down until they come back. And it was great, but I think the boundaries come from now I go in there and then they want to vent. And I'm new to the school district. I have no answers of why you're stressed. I have no answers of why you didn't eat today. I have no answers of why a parent just went off on you, knowing that their kid is bad, and I have no answers. So I find myself hiding, where I'm just like, hi, bye, and then I keep it going, So Yeah, instead of saying, I'm not that go-to person for you, I'm just here
Yeah.
to just give you a break because you're here for 6 hours with the students.
Yeah.
I don't know how to set that boundary. So I do stand and I listen. And I think it becomes anxiety, depression
Yeah.
for me because I want to be who you are. I can't be who you are if you're using me as your therapist. So
No,
that's a mental discourage for me. And when
yeah,
I go
that's
home,
beautiful. And
yeah.
I think like how you just told us, and something important to me, like even how I started off today, I encourage people to do. And so, like, this is who I am, right? And so I think sometimes workplaces don't have those opportunities. I was talking to a firm about this just yesterday. Right, when you're partnering with different people and they don't know each other, things can go beautifully, and also things can go really badly because you have different personalities and people don't understand how people work. And so what I'd really encourage you to do, if the school system doesn't have it for you, I would create a one pager. Right? These are some of my strengths. These are some of the things that may annoy me. This is right how you can best communicate with me. This is how I like to receive feedback. And so I'd love for yours to say, I don't do well with hearing complaints, right? Whether you say, I'm really positive, and so I really like to be solution focused or whatever it is. But even just letting these teachers know, like, I am so happy to help you and to be here for you, but I actually don't do well with complaints. Just like you told us, this is anxiety inducing for me. But I found if you can make it a one pager or a fun email, right? And then and you're new, so this is a beautiful time to be like, I'm new, and I realize it would be really beautiful and courageous to tell people who I am, right? So I started this call with like, let me just tell you a little about who I am. And I've realized we've really gotten away from that. We've really gotten away from knowing even just little things about the people we work with, right? Some people are morning people, some people are night people, some people need coffee, some people don't. Some people want to be talked to first thing in the morning. I'm really not a first thing in the morning talk to me person. So like when I was in a big workforce and people would all come and like the weekend, I actually wanted to get to work. I'm more of a like, okay, around lunchtime, like let's chat. When I'm eating lunch, but I really like to get to work when I first come in and settle in. But if people don't know that and they're coming in and out my office, that can be really aggravating. And so I think I'll go into just the courage framework, but because you all are leaders, I'm like, you can come back and look at this stuff later. So I'd rather focus on what works for you. But I'll go into that now. And I have these resources at couragecandy.co/boldly lead, so that you can look at that information later. Kelly, if you don't mind putting that in the chat, I'm going to send it to you so you can hopefully broadcast to everyone. But couragecandy.co/boldly lead. So it just has some of my favorite beliefs about courage. And so one is that courage is a choice. And so we have to realize that each of us actually have that choice every day in every decision. I know Aiden has probably heard this so many times because he's in the text community, but like we just have to acknowledge that we each have a choice. And I think often we don't feel like we have a choice. And so often we're put in situations where we may feel like I don't have the choice to be courageous or not. And so just want to acknowledge, like when I talk about courage, it's knowing that like each individual has that choice to make. I believe once we get to a certain point, the alternative is complacency. And so I've had someone ask me, isn't there like an in-between? And I'm like, yes. But once the in-between goes on for too long, it's complacency. So, right, I completely acknowledge we're all in situations sometimes where we can't just up and leave. We can't just up and leave a situation that's not right. But if it goes on too long, I've seen, and right, research shows we get complacent, if we're unmotivated, if we're not courageous, if we don't have goals, if we know a place or a friendship or a relationship or a location, geographic location is no longer serving us, the longer we stay, the more complacent people become. And so I just want to encourage you, whatever it is in your life, of like kind of monitoring that. Like when you know something isn't a fit, just thinking about like, how long am I willing to sit in this? And am I taking steps to get out of this situation? If it's something that's not a fit, whether that's values wise or just career wise, et cetera, health wise, et cetera. And then courage can be cultivated. And so this has been my work for the last 4 years, is like how to cultivate courage in change agents and leaders. And so I've had the opportunity get to do speaking across the country with a lot of different leaders, specifically around cultivating courage, and also have gotten to do a lot of coaching with individuals and organizations of how do we actually cultivate courage in a way that's going to work for individuals, but also for teams. And again, I believe cultivating courage means you can reach your highest potential in the season you're in. I am in a season where I am pregnant. I have never been pregnant before. So in this season, courage looks very differently for me. And so I always tell people like your highest potential for the season you're in. And so I think so many times as leaders, we won't acknowledge different seasons of life. And thank you all for your applause. It's very fun. It was a long journey and courageous journey. And so we're really just blessed to be here. And I have had to work on a lot of things. And so in seminary, I'm in a mentoring class, and you have to just choose an area you're going to work on. And so the area I got before I knew I was pregnant was kind of how to be okay with rest. And so I was like, then once I got pregnant, I was like, oh, this is really funny. Like, this is really funny that I, have to work on rest. But what it's called, my kind of area, is contentment with slowness. And so that is actually the opposite of my norm, right? I was someone who ran track in high school and college. Literally everything I knew was going at a fast pace. But to be called in this season to be content with going slow means I have to learn a different pace, which is courageous as well. And so I think it's so important for us as leaders to acknowledge, what season am I in? Right? A lot of you are in new beginnings or potentially difficult seasons. And so knowing that's going to require a different pace from you. It's going to require a different level of courage. Some of the things that you are doing, like to go from, being with your son who doesn't ask questions, to being with kids who are asking you a million questions, right? That is a courageous leap. For Jeff, setting these boundaries, right? That's a courageous leap of like, oh, I actually have served so much that maybe I've gone too far away from where I'm supposed to be. And so knowing that we can each cultivate courage, for me, is so beautiful, because courage is not an innate trait. And so often people will think, okay, people are just bold or they're not. And so what I really try to share with people, and what the research shows, is we can actually all learn courage. We can actually teach ourselves. It's a skill that can be cultivated. And so I love that. I have seen it. Not only in adults, but actually in kids, that we can teach kids how to be courageous. And I wish we would start younger, because if we learned as children what courage meant and how to be courageous, right, I think the world will be a much better place if we learn that at a young age. And then I believe courage is contagious. And so like one brave act can actually spark 1,000 more. And so growing up, I grew up with a very courageous father. I often thought he was crazy, to be honest. I'm like, Dad, why are you pulling us out of this? Why are you leaving this place? Why are you standing up for this? Does this really matter? But I've seen it does. And so that's the type of person I am now, where even if it seems so tiny, I've had so many people come to me, whether it's someone I advocated for a raise for, or someone I encourage, or just these little things. And especially in the text community, so many people write me back and go, I did this new thing because I've cultivated courage, right? And that's not about me, it's about this individual going, I'm going to learn something new. And so that's really what I want to most have you take from today, is just kind of these things of courage is a choice, right? Courage can be cultivated, and also courage is contagious. And so you all are in, different positions of power, whether it's in your family, whether it's in a school system, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in a church. And so what are we doing with those positions of power? Are we teaching people to be advocates, to be strong and courageous, to help others, to make the world a better place? I think is really important. And so you'll see just on this site links to frameworks. I tell people, please don't follow me on LinkedIn. Please don't follow me. Please connect with me. I don't believe in people following me. I want connections, right? I want to know what you're doing too. I want to be able to celebrate you. I don't want people following me. That's just me. And then just links to the book that Kelly talked about, etc. But Courage Candy texts are free. I pay for it because it's something I want to contribute to the world. And so I send out Courage Candy weekly. If you want faith fuel based on biblical scriptures, you can kind of click or scroll. So I do Courage Candy. I also do faith fuel. So you can sign up for one or both. And so that is there. And so I just want to kind of close out by going into some of our courage frameworks. So you have links to all of those. Very early on in my courage work, someone asked me, how would you define courage? And honestly, I gave a very Webster dictionary answer. And after I was like, wow, that was just a very Webster answer. And I did not like that. I'm like, yes, that was not good. It was good, but it was not my true definition. And so after that, a few years ago, I came up with my own definition, and it's what you'll see on the screen. But I believe that courage has to start with care. I believe courage means you're overcoming your fears, which is a big thing. Most people say that's why they don't make courageous choices. I'm going to scroll so it doesn't keep going. But so courage, believe, it starts with care, overcoming fears, unapologetic authenticity. So early in my career, there were certain things I felt I couldn't do, and it was actually against who I was as a person. And so how can I be in spaces where I can show up as who I truly am? Repetition. So you must constantly cultivate it. I was in a situation yesterday, you all, where I had to do something that was so courageous and so hard. Have this really courageous conversation. And it was uncomfortable. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, but I knew based on my values, it was the right thing to do. And so we have to know throughout our career and our life, we're going to keep getting faced with these choices of, do I be courageous or do I be complacent? And so something I recommend for leaders is to have your own mission statement. And so kind of just raise of hands if you have a mission statement right now. All right. All right. So that's something I so recommend. And again, that may change by season, but it helps to guide you in your values. That's one thing I love about nonprofits, right? They usually have beautiful mission statements, beautiful value statements, beautiful vision statements. And I think we can learn a lot from nonprofits of, let's have a mission statement. What is my goal in this season? And also a vision of if I did my mission really well, right, this vision would no longer be needed, right? And so I think that's really important too to think about. Gritty, unfortunately, being courageous is being gritty. Angela Duckworth has a great book on grit that I like. And you could also just take a quick little grit score if you're like, how gritty am I? So those are the things I love to like have my husband do and me do. It's just fun and be like, who do you think is grittier? And yes, we both know like I was going to be grittier. So, but I think that's just things I've been through in life and courage. But it's fun to do that. And it's also fun to think about, how do I increase my grit? How do I increase my courage? And so what I'm going to scroll down to is the courage continuum chart, because I'd love for you all to just take a reflection moment, because most of us have not done this before, and just think about, how courageous do you typically feel on a daily basis? And you don't have to share it out loud, but I want you to just think about your number. How courageous do I typically feel? From 0, not courageous at all, to 10, maximum courage. I cannot be any more courageous than I am right now. So 0 to 10, just want you to think about that. And then I want you to think about, does your number change if I ask you professionally versus personally? All right. So I'd love to know, just raise their hands, who is more courageous professionally than personally? Who is more courageous at work? I would say for me, I am. I'm more courageous at work because it's like standing up for other people usually, than I am, right? If I'm at the massage place and it's horrible, will I say something? If the food is horrible, will I speak up? Personally, I'm probably much less courageous if it's a friend, etc. So everyone else, you all are more courageous personally. Anyone want to share why? Or why you think it is? Because you may not have thought of this before.
It just my
I
initial
can
reaction
share.
was go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. We'll go
That's fine.
Shannon, then Tamila.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, wait.
Hi. I think I'm about the same. And that's what I was kind of grappling with, was trying to pick apart if there are any differences. I think to some degree, I spent a number of years being a stay-at-home mom, but my kids were not actually at home. They were school age kids. And so that, coming from being a professional to being at home for a few years, that required a particular type of courage, because I had to reinvent myself. But then going back into the workplace, I had to reinvent myself. And so I'm not exactly sure that the number would be different. I think the being at home, functioning as a mother to a son, mother to a daughter, and being a wife, I think that those require a lot of how did you say it, that contentment with slowness. I really liked that. And whereas being at work required more of kind of the overcoming and the repetition, and maybe some of the being unapologetic. And being at home, I had to exercise a lot more care than I did at work. So it kind of balanced out. That's where I'm getting to. They're not that the number wouldn't be different, but the type or the quality of courage is has been different. So yeah.
No, thank you. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Tamila.
I want to say at home. I'm more courageous at home. I deal with a lot of different agencies, the list, because of my son being autistic. And with him being 15 now, it's been 15 years where I can say, no, he's not going to accept this. Yes, he can accept that. We're not going to do this for him. I think it's more of the care.
Yeah.
You know, out here in the world, I don't really feel that care is on my shoulders. I feel it's just perseverance. You know, you're leaving home to do what you need to do. You take care of the business, and then you go back to the home. You know, and that's where the impactness of your life really starts. But now that I'm in the education field, I feel that what I do in my home, that care, you know, or that is actually coming out now into the world, because I have these students that don't get at home what I give to my son. So now you have like 4 or 5 students, one on one arm, one on the other arm, one on one leg, one on the other leg. So yeah, so I'm starting to feel like I'm slowly bringing it out of the household and then keeping it in the household. Yeah, I'm feeling that. And
That's
it's
great.
scary. It's
Yeah,
scary.
no, thank you
You
for
know.
acknowledging that that's
Yeah.
a fear thing for you, because I think we have to think about how, you know, most of us may work more than we actually get to spend with our families. And
Mm-hmm.
so thinking about, I think that's when it goes back to that mission or
Yeah.
legacy of like, what do I want to do with all of these hours that
Yeah.
I'm right? Yes, you're getting
Yeah.
paid, but you're also giving and gifting to the world,
Yeah.
whatever field you're in, whether it's a
Mhm.
restaurant field or a university or a nonprofit or a corporate setting. And so I
Yeah.
think that's when it's really beautiful to see each
Yeah.
people's unique mission serve a broader mission. And I think it's just really important. Like when we look at now versus the last 10 years, like we need so much courage in this world. We need
Yeah.
change agents who are willing to speak up for what's right,
Mhm.
who are willing to do what's right, even when it's really hard. And I can say, because a lot of times I will advocate, which is our A, not even advocating just for yourself, but how do you advocate and learn to advocate for others? And that's when you see systems change and workplaces change and families change and generations change. And so our last one is E, is like, how do we truly embrace this? How do we actually start to work on these things where they permeate our personal life,
Mhm.
our professional life? Leave with, but I also, if you have a question, feel free to come off mute or to send it to Kelly, because I want to make sure if anyone has specific questions that they get answered. So just let me know if you have a closing question, and then we'll kind of close out. But what I'm also going to add to this page is just a radical candor framework. So for those who are practicing, how do I have these conversations? There's a framework here for courageous consciousness, for like, how do you have more courageous conversations? But I'm also just going to link on this page for you all. Kim Scott, she's a management person, and she developed a framework for radical candor, which means how do I care personally while challenged directly? And so that's a good framework to look at as well. If you're, you know, how do I be more courageous? How do I have some of these conversations? And so I love that hers is care personally while challenging directly. And then unfortunately, what I see the most is what she calls ruinous empathy, caring personally while staying silent. So that is what I see the most, is people who care personally but stay silent, and that's often linked to that fear of like, I fear speaking up, I fear the repercussions, or I don't know how to do this in the correct way. And so it's been really fun because courage, right, isn't just personal or professional, it bleeds into everything. So even my mother-in-law was here this weekend and she's negotiating like for a house. And I was so happy that I was there because I've taken negotiation classes, and she's like, I'm tired of this. And I'm like, no, don't be tired. Like, you got to be courageous. You're doing the right thing. But that kind of ruinous empathy caring personally while staying silent, or just getting tired of it, right? Like, especially if someone's not kind, it can be really hard to stay courageous. And so, how do we have the tools in place to stay courageous no matter what someone's response is going to take that cultivating courage? I believe every day I have to consciously make the decision. My personality is actually conflict averse, even though it probably wouldn't seem like it. And so I even have to let people know this is actually really uncomfortable for me to be courageous. It is actually against my personality because I like to keep the peace. I would prefer no conflict, and that's just not the world. So I encourage you to look at your personality. 16 personalities test is a great free one. Clifton Strengths and Strength, well, they've now Strength Finders is really great to just take every 5 years and see where you are. There is a place recently I saw everyone had their top 5 Clifton Strengths actually like in their office space, which I thought was fun. And so just thinking about what things can you incorporate, and also how do you take steps to be more courageous. And so you are welcome to join the text thread. We have a fun time in there just thinking about courage. Last week, I was really thinking about integrity because of the situation I had to deal with yesterday. And so I'm constantly walking this journey with everyone in the group as well. And so really appreciate you all. If anyone has a question, feel free to come off mute. If not, I would love for us to just do a final reflection of what's one thing you can take from this webinar or conversation and do within the next 2 weeks. And it may be really personal or it may be something really broad, but we'd just love to finish up that way of just what's one thing you can do within the next 2 weeks regarding courage cultivation, or it may be something different for you.
Antoinetta, I'm gonna be totally authentic. I'm a 1. I'm giving myself permission to rest. And so
Oh, so good.
Thank you for bringing that to light. And that's something that I'm gonna work on. So appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for sharing. All right. Yeah. So Kelly's a 1. I'm excited. I'm going to check in on you in a month, Kelly. I love it. Thank you. Anyone else want to share before Kelly closes us out?
Thank you for reminding us that courage is a choice. We're freely open to make that choice for ourselves and for others.
Thanks for being here today. Yeah.
I think I would say everyone doesn't deserve, and just leave that as an open end. Just because you choose you, doesn't mean that they deserve, so that they deserve you. So I want to create a safe space around me and my anxiety. So I think that's what I'm working on. I think that all boils down to just being able to say no, or just or politely say I'm not the one that that can help you, but I can find that one for you, things like that. But yeah, everyone doesn't deserve, just because they come to you. Yeah. So yeah, just create my own safe space. Yeah.
I love that. I love that because you create it for your students. So how beautiful to think about how you can create that for yourself. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else before we close out? All right. Well, thank you all so much. I love these small groups because I get to know you all. So again, feel free to connect with me. Would love to be connected with you. And just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Be well.
All right. Thank you.
Antoinetta, thank you so much for helping us build our courage muscle. So I know we can do it. I have faith in all of us. And thank you for the resources that you've shared. Anybody wants to zap that QR code, feel free to do so, and I will send this information out to everyone. I do want to let you know that the learning doesn't stop here. We continue to offer opportunities throughout the year we're skipping May because it's graduation, lots of things going on. But in June, Jennifer Cosno is going to help us build our mindfulness so that we can use mindfulness as fuel for our courageous journey. So put on your comfies, close your office door, and join us for some mindfulness, some breath work, and help to build that muscle. I'm super excited about another opportunity, Zoe Hammer, who is a community organizer, has been for decades. She actually was near the room where the Black Lives Matter hashtag was created, and she's done lots of really inspiring work on leading courageously to help change happen. She's going to bring some of her students that she's worked with throughout her career together in a panel to teach us about courageous leadership and community organizing. There's no better time than this for us to get out there and fight for what we believe. So Zoe's going to be with us. I don't have a date yet, but I will send that out to everyone. And then finally, the opportunities that we have here at the University of Olivet. We've got our Master of Arts and Leadership program and our graduate certificates in nonprofit leadership and management, sport coaching leadership, and creativity, innovation, and change. If you wonder about those programs, please reach out. I'd be happy to talk with you about those, as well as our MBA program, where we've got concentrations in insurance and in marketing, as well as a general concentration to elevate your credentials so that maybe you can step into bigger and better leadership positions. Also, super excited about two things that we have. One is 24/7 all the time. It's unfortunately only for people who are in our University of Olivet network or constellation. If you're able to sign into the Canvas network, you can join the conversation asynchronously about each one of our webinars. So I'm going to put up the website and some of the slides that Antoinetta shared into our conversation about courageous leadership and Courage Candy. And if you click on this link, you can go into a discussion forum, and Taylor Martin, who is our director of online relationship building, has put together some great questions about Courage Candy and Courage. You can join that conversation for the next month and be involved in that dialogue. Finally, as we get into September, I'm super excited that we're on our second annual, now that we have two, it's the second annual Courageous Leadership Colloquium. We're going to have 25 powerhouse speakers about all areas of courage, whether it's courage in the arts, courage in community organizing, in the military, in speaking, in planning, all kinds of speakers that are going to talk to us about all these different skills that we can build to be better, courageous leaders. That is completely virtual, but it's also available here on campus. You can come into our Pula Samba Theater, and Pula Samba is a courageous leader who is part of our University of Olivet history. You'll learn more about her. You can join us. You can watch the webinars in the big screen, have snacks, drink coffee, and build your network at the same time. I will be sending you all information about that. I hope you'll join us for that, and feel free to share these opportunities with the folks that you know. Know that we'll be following up with an email. It's got all of this information in it, and let you know about future opportunities. More than anything, I know that life is busy and you have a lot of other things you could have chosen to do, but you chose to grow in your courage, and I so appreciate that. So on behalf of the University of Olivet, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to continuing this relationship and this conversation. We hope to see you again soon. Antoinetta, thank you so much. Take care.